Hi, you guys. It's MJ from Alta Love. How are you? I've had an interesting couple of days. I made some videos and then deleted some videos, and I suppose I'm traversing through these similar sort of energies of um yeah, just still like coming back to self-love and self-compassion and discerning energies, like discerning what's actually going on versus like what's my old patterning or my old past patterning. um what are my what are my desires, like what are my genuine desires moving forward in this life, and what's tolerable, what isn't tolerable, like just the whole host of um yeah, just stuff coming up basically, and honoring you guys, honoring this community, and endeavoring to just carry on basically, like just one day at a time, basically. Could I say basically one more time? Basically. Pardon me guys, my nose is still a bit runny, so I'm just gonna come away from the screen and blow my schnozzles because it's not that I'm ashamed of blowing my nose, it's that I don't want to like bubble blow, like, and then I would be embarrassed. Although, like, right now, I'm like, is there stuff like hanging out of my nostrils? So be it. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Alt Love TV, where MJ talks about her nostrils and her snot. What? So I just kept hearing this morning conceptual realities, and I'm like, okay, thanks. What the F? What is this? What do you want me to talk about regarding conceptual reality? Now, an aspect of this that and the reason I've put in parentheses like the power of TV programming, TV or film programming. Now, this is regarding the power of the television programming on our consciousness, on our ability to perceive and to create, to conceptualize our reality. We don't realize the extent to which our consciousness has been programmed to act out the TV programming, i.e., what does the TV program teach us? Endless war. Let's see, advertising. What does it teach us? It's super fun to party, and if you're in pain, take a pill. And once you start getting to this age, you must start considering these things. And it's fear. The ultimate overarching agenda of the media is fearful program, i.e., I'm separate and should fear my body. I'm separate and should fear other. And other usually means the people that look different and or talk different and or live in a different way, and so what we have here is sort of these endless cycles of war and fear, based on this powerful media programming. So I'm just hearing something along the lines of like, don't blame it all on the programming, Molly. And I shan't. I don't want to. There's still an inherent choice in all of this. This is where we often, I think, come against resistance, because we carry as beings so much trigger and resistance to change and or resistance to like our own responsibility, basically. And so the extent to which we're able to take responsibility for our creative world is challenging, and I often get a sense that perhaps it creates a lot of cognitive. I By the way, I don't know if you guys know this, but like I only recently learned about what cognitive dissonance means, and it's like my favorite thing. I'm gonna sneeze. Wait for it. Oh, I think I lost it. What a shame. Don't you hate it when you lose a sneeze? I sure do. Because sneezing's orgasmic, let's be honest. Sneezing just feels so effing good. But when a sneeze comes, you're like, wait for it. Ah, ah. But then when it doesn't come, you're like, that's annoying. I'm just draining. Okay, so conceiving of our realities, conceptualizing our reality, and so a big part of this paradigm shift to me is more humans are able to understand and then integrate this, which is ultimately self-actualization, is the embodiment via understanding that you are the creator of your reality. If you're the creator, of course, you're the conceiver of it as well. You're the one who has conceptualized this dynamic experience that you're now living. And of course, because we're so fixated on being right and wrong and good and bad, most of us can't break it down to the point of non duality because we're fixated on duality as a means to protect our own ego. And this is where we often, uh, in different revolutionary, theoretical study, we have the backlash. Certainly in feminist theory, there's the kickback, the backlash, the tantrum, the how dare you try to make change, and yet change is ongoing and relentless. And I'm not sure that any of us could highlight a time in history where there have not been change. In fact, majority of our even historical context is about change. It's about, oh look, this happened at this time in history. Why do we make a point of it? Because it was something different, because something changed, because the rulership changed, because the ideology of the time changed, right? And so like change is this perpetual constant, and yet we seem to live in this terrible paradox where people perpetuate the idea, well, it's just the way it is, like things don't perpetually change. And so um the original like topic title for today was conceptual realities, was conceptual realities, and I was about to write something along the lines of like it's all coming apart, or it's all falling down, it's all falling apart, um, and in very basic ways, like it is. our 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 once believed real reality. So again, there um we break it down, or we simplify it by simply going like, okay, so the masses, the majority, the large majority of us here living on this planet, we were basically programmed. Our brain was hardwired to believe that the world that is around us and what we are imprinted with by that world, including what we're imprinted with about our own self, that's the real reality. So we're fixated on the external illusory aspect, thinking that it's dominant, thinking that that real reality is the real world. And of course, that's the great lie that we're here to rise out of or rise above. In fact, it's the reverse that is more true. We are the conceiver, the birther, the creator of that reality which we're perceiving. There was just a, I'm hearing like a cutoff point, a point where that that truth inside was disconnected, and maybe we just all chose that. This is where, when we extend our timeline a little bit and we have a deeper understanding of forces that exist here and how creation and free will operates in this infinite cosmic and divine reality. Um, Choices are an aspect of that divinity. And so with choices, of course, there's always free will. And and free will makes this universe incredibly fascinating and fun to live in, and dynamic. And there is another version of our human history where the earth is a much more universal and or kind of galactic gateway, and so there are beings from across this universe that exchange ideas and goods and technology and stuff like that. And we forgot, and part of the controller grid system is actually an aspect of Earth's forgetfulness, an aspect of Earth's diving into darkness, and then coming back to the light. And so it's all something about, I'm hearing that expression, something about like it's all fair in love and war or something like that. Or I guess like it's all fair in duality. It all goes. Hi, Spirit Spectra. How are you? um, so that's part of the detachment piece of, like, we can get as fixated in all of the issues of the world as we want. Um, it doesn't mean any single one of us is going to fix all of them that we perceive. And part of growing up, I would say, is actually letting go of thinking it's our job to like fix people or fix the world. And yet, we don't want to be here living in denial. So, like, face it, face the trauma of the world. This is pretty much all I really am here to share and talk about with you guys is feel it. Feel the oppression, feel the anger, feel the sadness, feel the joy, feel the bliss, feel all that is in this world. And then based on those feelings, ultimately make a choice that feels good. You know, if you miss somebody, reach out. If you care about somebody, reach out. Uh, so yeah, there's clearly like a lot going on inside me right now, and I'm just like, I wanted to show up for you guys this morning, and yet I'm feeling a little bit flat, and my heart is like really active. I'm just a little bit still, I guess, like blown away by the energies. Hi, other me's. Hi, Daniel. How are you, my friend? Magic people, spirit spectra, mega appreciation for you guys. How are you? So I've had, like, in these last couple of days, feeling the energies hard myself, bit of a roller coaster, yeah. My deets, my deets hurts, but my heart is happy. My feet hurts. Have you had a long day today? I feeling I really res with that. Um, the roller coaster ride of energies. The ones you're choosing. Concrete floors all day. Yeah, that would be tough on the feet for sure. Spirit Spectre, thank you. Thank you for that lovely reminder. I agree. That's part of, like, I had a couple messages from people like, "Are you going live? I'm looking forward to the live share." And then, like, somebody messaging about, like, "I just love everybody here." Like, you guys all share the love between each other. It's like, group chat, coffee chat. I This morning as well, interestingly, something has shifted clearly with these just intense up and down, still shifting a lot of energy, right? We're still moving through a lot of our old shit, basically. um, but, like, I can't deny that there's incredible clarity with the with the continuation of holding space for ourselves like this. And like this morning, even just going live felt different to me. It was like this inner pressure valve that I just am so familiar with, that I've had my whole life. As in, those of us that feel that weird, like being on a mission, i.e., like save the world, or like for whatever reason, having all this compassion to be like, oh my God, what's going on? We have to help. We have to help. We have to help. And then having all this like inner kind of, and then you try to calm it down and be like everybody else in high school. And then eventually that comes back, right? And um, it's like that pressure valve is starting to just like dissipate. And I don't feel, it's so weird to describe it. I don't feel like pressure, where I think for so long I felt this like pressure. It's hard to describe. Hi Shiki Lipa, how are you? I'm in the chapter of cleaning the inner child. Mm, I'm still working through like certain density patterns. Um and I'm still really deeply looking at self-worth stuff, and also um relationship stuff. I'm like one day, like when you mentioned the roller coaster, I'm really having that just generally, like in life, and then like most areas of my life. Spirit spectrum. I know. And this is such a huge thing as far as realizing that like that mutual healing that happens. And like who knew, right? Who knew that just all of this, like the sharing, and like you guys might get this, it's like the way other people perceive us isn't necessarily how we perceive ourselves. And like I'm aware that like other people might say things or whatever that show that kind of goes like, as in those, that's how people perceive me. But like I don't know how to not be myself, right? Like I don't know how to not be who I am. And so like I guess that just further shows how effing weird I am in this in this world where we're all supposed to be a certain way, and I'm like so far gone that I'm like, "Oh, and what way is that then?" Especially because there's such cruelty sometimes, and I'm just like, "Okay, so we're all supposed to just be dickheads, and that's fine then." Like, we're all just supposed to bend over and let our politicians and bankers fuck us up the arse while we give them more of our hard-earned money. Anyway, oops, just went off on a tangent there. Mhm. Daniel, like, that's the piece that I get a lot. Like, when heartfelt truth, there's resonance. Props and sets are all completely different. Uh, the obstacle course, right? Like, how the obstacle course looks for each and every one of us is different, which is where the judgment piece comes in, not judging books by covers, because everyone's obstacle course, i.e., like Daniel's comment, all the props and everybody's sets are different. We're all on our own stage with our own effing characters and our own plot twists and storylines and set pieces and all of that kind of stuff, right? So if we're looking over at someone else's stage, being like, "Well, look, why is their outfit different? Why is there?" It's because it's meant to be. How boring would this universe be? If every single universe was the same? If every single, well, then it wouldn't be infinite. It would be just the one, which it is the one in infinite forms, which is part of the polarity and also duality of existence in form. And yet we all get this weird love quantum leap vibration, is that the love is the container of all of the creation, which is just this weird thing of us expanding to vibrate more into that unity, unconditional love, so that we harmonize some of the dualistic aspects which are currently and have been for some time uh, creating despair and destruction in this realm. And that's ultimately what we're here to like shake people out of, including our own self, really, because we want to be free from this realm. We don't want to keep getting looped back in unconsciously to reincarnate here. We'd rather choose, like consciously as a being, to choose to incarnate rather than being like, rah, rah, like back in the reincarnation grid. Oh, look, I'm a human again. What the actual? And oh, look, just rambled on for England here. Exactly. But see, this is where our and then fifths, I'm thinking about the Saturn matrix and the things that you talk about as far as like leaving this realm, because that's part of the deception that's happening. Part of the deception that's happening is this archon grid, which keeps everybody's from the demiurge. It's part of that low level creative belt, which we've just finished traversing through the cosmos. And now we're moving into different energies, more heavenly, more loving, more compassionate. But that grid is still being excommunicated. It's still leaving this realm. And then that's freeing a lot of the souls. Yeah, Saturn Matrix has ended. And that's probably why we're feeling all of this totally shaking up of our conceptual reality, because it's no longer in place, right? It's not fixated here. So it doesn't, we might still see the outworking of it on the physical plane because it's already been worked out on the astral or on the spiritual. Remember that everything's happening from the void into form, not really the other way around. So okay, amazing. See, somehow that just resonates. Jupiter's being anchored by us. Now I've felt that intuitively and known that just for years that it's us, like we're anchoring it. So essentially we're the new, we're the light, we're the and I say grid, it's not really grid in some restrictive way though. It's like an event. It's more like and and then there's like this biosphere that is much more light filled and heavenly and crystalline and harmonious. So yeah, I guess that's part of it. Me, I was wanting to say like conceptual realities are falling apart, and that they are. They are, because they're not yeah, I get that as well, because they were false. False, that's why I talk about the false economy, because a lot of um the conceptual reality that we conceived and then projected was a false grid, i.e., it's not inherent to the blueprint of Earth. And especially if I were to just put it in this context of where we are in the universal portal, it's like now we're moving into these greater light frequencies where these lower level energetic forms don't align. They can't. They just. It's like it's vibrational resonance. It's law of attraction. They can't stay here because of the law of attraction. We're starting to vibrate too high, my friends. We're vibrating too high. Jupiter. And like Jupiter's been through that depth of transformation, like so many of us have. And I feel like that is also part of the us understanding our sexuality better, or moving into that level of study in the self, so that we're not engaging in fearful sexual programming. So we're claiming our bodies as whole and in love, and we're claiming our sexual power and freedom as sovereign beings, which is obviously in respect and honoring of the form, not the other. And then sovereign has been the main theme for me. Yeah, I keep getting the vision of myself suspended in the air in that space right before you change direction, where you are still. That's where we are. OMG, Spirit Spectra. This has happened a couple times with you guys. So I also had a very similar meditation yesterday. Except weirdly, I was in a bit of a storm, and in the it was like I was being pulled up and then just sort of suspended above it all, looking but it felt really nice. It felt like, oh, finally, like pulling out of this sort of old paradigm shittiness, and then just like but this is nice as well, because I actually feel it like in the center of a blast. Yeah. Yeah, and we know it. It's not particularly easy, is it? But it's working because these sort of synchronicities, I'm like, who would ever thunk it that when we were little learning about the world or growing up or being told what life was or what it's or what we're supposed to look like in life. And then I'm talking to people from different parts of the world where we're having similar visions and meditations, or you guys, like, I've had 2 or 3 emails from complete strangers basically telling me they had a dream about me. And then they were guided to Alta Love, and then they found me, and either they saw me in a dream, or I had somebody message me saying that he just got a very strong message in a dream that said Vipassana. And I think maybe the dream actually said my name, but he Googled Vipassana and Molly, and then Alta Love came up, and he was like, "Oh, that's so." Yeah, just really weird, but awesome, right? And it's basically just like reminds me of the unity piece, and that we're finally increasing and accelerating our experience of unity. So when we were all talking about certain subject matter, when we experience things like love at first sight, when we know our heart is being asked to let go, when our intuitive capacity lights up and we just know certain things about ourselves and about reality. There's a reason why we chose to deny the power that we are. And for a lot of us, it's because this earth over the ages hasn't been particularly kind to us as beings. We've been misunderstood and like destroyed basically. So in this age now, it's like keep walking in your truth, like keep shining from your heart, express that authenticity with fierce kind of sense of love and compassion, and that it's like your own light beam is what's clearing the cobwebs and lighting the way to your higher path, or just like being peaceful on earth, joyful and peaceful. Like, again, it's kind of simple stuff. Like, it's not like most of us want billions to make mansions all over the world so that we can prove something to some dictator in God knows where, right? It's like, I don't know, that's where it's such a sort of brain fart, because you're like, so most of us just wanna, like, be able to, like, live in peace and, like, love the people that we're around and, not work like slaves, that would be good, and, love ourselves, love our bodies, have good sex with the people that we love, or we the I love how I say plural, have plenty of good sex with lots of different people. I don't mean that, and I don't mean to, like, I don't know, I'm still working stuff out on that level. Oh, look, I'm blushing. See, good old Catholic girl having to talk about sex is a little bit troubling for her. Ah! Except I know it's huge. I know it's like a huge piece. By shaming our bodies and then shaming sex like it's some horrible thing, that's why there's so many issues around sexuality. In fact, on a metaphysical level, that's why there's so many even um STDs and stuff. It's underlying the sexual guilt piece, or all of us are effing guilty. No wonder we flare up down there, because we're frightened of our bodies and we're frightened of sex. Mainly because it's been like hijacked from the collective, because we're in such shame around our bodies. Haha, sex. I know, like, for real. And like, here I am in my hard love being guided, like, yes, one day I shall write a book about sex energy and the feminine cycle. And I'm like, especially because, like, it's those taboo topics where, like, everybody, it's like, honey, honey, you need to read this book about tantra or da da da. And I'm like, I'd rather just have direct experience and learn via my own sexy body and my own intuition and like someone else's sexy body. I'm like, I would prefer to learn through direct experience. Yeah, yeah. And that is the legitimate truth. Like, if you read Mary Magdalene or like the sex magic stuff, it's like, sex is one of the, I guess you could say, most pleasurable, pure things that we can do that brings us to like ecstatic bliss vibration. And And yet here's the level of distortion. It's XXX. It's banished to the shadows of the XXX world and community. And like sex workers are like, "Shh," and you're just like, guys, we all have sex. When we're not in deep levels of shame around our body, we all enjoy sex mostly because we're doing it because, well, yeah, I'm pretty sure. And like, I don't know. I'm still like, when I noodle around this stuff, I'm like, what is up? Why is it all like this? Right? Sex is complicated. Why should it be? And then I was thinking about the weird piece about how our society, it's like, don't have like, ooh, don't have sex before marriage. And everybody's all up in arms about like what women or should women be allowed to abort? Shouldn't they? And I'm like, who's it's none of your goddamn business, lawmakers, lawmakers. It's none of your business what I do with my body, who I want to sleep with, who I don't. And then, and it's interesting to me that we don't talk about this stuff, and yet people want to make laws about who gets to marry who. So what am I trying to say? It's like PDA. It's like, go fuck in the shadows, fuck behind closed doors. Nobody wants to hear it. Don't have sex till you're married. But then everyone's up in arms about when the gay stuff or the lesbian stuff or the trans stuff, and it's like, wait a minute. So hetero people, the laws, you're like, just shush and close your doors and keep your clothes on and be as quick as possible, and just so she can be impregnated. You know what I mean? It's very mechanical. But then we put out in public and we get in fucking fights about it, and we try to make laws about who gets to fuck who, what's appropriate, what isn't appropriate, who gets to marry who. I'm like, who cares? Could we just not love and accept each other? You know? Especially because I look down and I see one magic people going, let love rule. I know, you guys. I know. And then that is so much the legit thing of shame and guilt run the world. Yeah, that's what original sin is. We're all guilty fucking sinners running around feeling guilty, but we're trying to pretend like we're not guilty or shameful. And so we're in denial of all of this stuff. And yet, really, the denial piece is ultimately why it's all spinning out, because everyone's in denial of their own creatorship. As in, it's difficult for us to own the fact that we've actually conceived of this and are part of its outworking. And yet we chose it, right? So we're good to go. You guys, I love you. Still healing some of that shit in my life. Yeah, and this is like another thing I'm totally like in my adulthood, what I'm realizing is like it's so relevant that my personal like embodied programs around men are just all fucked up and false. Like some of us women might have, okay, and then I have the collective programming against me where men are like, oh my god, like women are just fucking crazy, or oh my god, like they're just hysterical, or they're just emotional, or blah blah blah. So like women get a lot of that, but then what I'm really realizing is like the men stuff around like men just want to fuck, blah 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 blah, or they just want to spread their seed, or men only want one thing. Like that is also all lies as well. Like men desire sacred connection as much as we women. Men desire and so it's just weird when you start unworking your programming and realizing that it's all lies, and that we do attract, it's not like I didn't attract that stuff, hence the freshness of it, of as far as like we do attract at some point in our lives, we will attract stuff that we're vibrating, and if we're vibrating that men are womanizing assholes, that's what we will attract, if we and ultimately there's deeper and deeper layers to all of it, as far as like outworking those deeper family patterns and being easy on ourselves when we're in patterns, to look over it and over it until we realize that we're done with it, right? They are trained to fear our eroticism and sensuality. Yeah. which is part of that double edge of our fearing of it as well. Yeah. Pleasure is sold as sin. Right. That's why we perpetuate violence and we have like violent video games and stuff, you know? I know. Isn't it interesting that we could fixate on something like sex addiction, but then not address in the same sort of sense of severity, not address the fact that the majority of children are addicted to video games and or addicted to our devices. We are as adults. I am. I'm not gonna lie about it. I'm just as addicted to all this shit as anybody else. I just and can talk about it. I have an awareness of it, whereas some people mightn't have that awareness and they're just in it. And that as adults, we bang on and make ourselves wrong and perpetuate our sinful state by, focusing on our all of our many, many addictions. And yet, we've got one staring us right in the face with young children basically being programmed by their devices to perpetuate fearful violence and to deny love. I know, fifth. Here's the thing, but that's the truth of it. This is what it is. When you're connected to the heart, this is what I share. It's like the compassion, the empathy. When you're connected to your heart, it's you don't. I felt the pain of lying. I felt the pain of violence. I felt the pain of yeah, lying and betrayal. Lying and betrayal is like the wound, right? And then if we keep denying, we just sort of keep kind of cutting open that wound. But that's how I perceive it. Original sin is just disconnection from the altar, disconnected from your heart, which is your connection point to God, God's source, the Christ, whatever word you want to use. And so once we're disconnected, we act out in sin. That's ultimately where the idea of imbalance and male domination comes from, is that when we dominate, if we're trying to dominate the world around us, we perceive it as separate from us, which is a disconnected state, which is a sinful state. Once we connect to the heart, it's virtually impossible. It doesn't and this is the weirdest paradox of stuff, is that weirdly being connected to one's heart triggers people's wounds and then they blame you for how they feel, and but they're already disconnected. They're already living in sin. They're already disconnected from their own heart. So what are you going to do, right? I guess just continue to love and trust and have faith in your own divine path. Yeah, it's true, right? The only thing that casts out fear is love. There's no test, is there? It's just continuous. I know AB Brown 5, lying and betrayal is so hard. It's so deep. And all you can do is keep going. Just be super kind just be super kind to you and myself. Yeah. And so like this is brutal, but like self-betrayal, self-denial, owning the betrayal as the self, and that's a real way to integrate that disconnect point in the self. And here again, I'm not saying that owning that betrayal is like um owning the behavior. It's forgiving the behavior, but owning the experience as a learning tool. And then for me, once you integrate those depths of pain as a self-created state of consciousness, you then rise. And it's in your rising that you can start to discern where people are coming from. I can't quite explain to you like how honed and refined my intuitive capacity is, but I'm much more honed and refined. I'm much more clear and in my flow, like in my essential state. And so there's no separation, right? There's no sin in that regard. Ooh, I just looked down. Cosmic sexuality. It's so hard to forgive magic, orgasm, just take a piece of the soul. That's right. That's right. And ultimately, we can just be who we want to be, you know? Yeah, I feel that. But again, I think we've been heavily programmed to fear pleasure and to be guilty. It's like, think about the expression guilty pleasure. It's pretty much written in our language that we're all meant to be guilty for feeling good. And I ultimately don't buy into anything that disempowers us. So even there's an idea that all women have to hold the DNA of the men they sleep with for 7 years. And I'm like, bullshit. I call your bluff, right? It's all these sort of expressions that say, like, we're not allowed to be free. We're not allowed to be joyful. Pleasure is always going to end up in pain. It's like, or pain ends up in pain. Or if I'm always gonna feel guilty about feeling good, then I'm always gonna end up fucking guilty, and I'm always gonna end up punishing myself, and I'm never gonna be free, and I'm never gonna be able to just fucking enjoy myself. And it's a perpetual choosing, you know? Like, we are allowed to be free, we are allowed to enjoy ourselves. By gosh, we're allowed to enjoy these bodies, and the more you do, the more you do, the more you do. And there's no almighty God, there's no external sinner that's going to come down and make you feel bad and punish you for feeling good unless you do it to yourself. And that's perpetually in the choosing in the present moment. I It took years and years and years for me to be able to just enjoy chilling the F out without feeling guilty, without feeling like I should be busy because otherwise I'm a big fat fucking failure at this life unless I'm being productive and doing stuff, right? I'm like, or I'm effing tired, so why don't you just sleep and embrace sleeping as much as you would embrace being productive, right? Well, that's I'm reading Danielle's comment. That's part of my perspective of, again, because we're not taught sacred connection. So we're not having sacred sex. So we're having abusive sex. Even though one party might be being satisfied by it, it's dominant sex. It's not co-creative, enjoyable sex. So, right. So everybody has trauma around sexuality. God, how, like, show of hands, how many girls here have been raped? You know, like, I bet there's probably at least one or two of you out there, and or men. I have had sessions with men who have been raped as well. So there's no, like, I'm not going, "Oh, women, women are always," no, I own that shit. I know how and why exactly I got into that situation. And I'm not going around pointing fingers, but I'm also aware that my counterparts as men who are so-called performing rapes or women performing rapes, that you're fucked like all of us. That there's a serious effing issue if we want to fuck a child or fuck somebody who doesn't want to fuck us back. Sorry for using that harsh language, guys. I don't mean to be sort of crude about it, but you know what I mean. I get all fired up about this stuff cuz, like, hi, I'm 37 and still unraveling these, like, insidious, icky control patterns, which somehow I chose to deny and betray myself. And then via that denial and betrayal, just live a life of enslavement and disempowerment. And at the tender age of 37, I'm going, hold the effing phone here. Even though I knew so much of this stuff intellectually, but I'm still having to embody it. I'm still having to, like, feel, like, literally last week I'm having to feel the insidiousness of what it means to enslave myself. Basically, an overarching program of men only want one thing and they have no respect for me and da, 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 and I'm like feeling the, like, huh, of that program, which is pretty much the Walt Disney program, because the women were pretty much taught, like, just be pretty and everything will be fine. And then we get abused by the world. So it's like yeah. Anyway, there I go rambling on as per usual. Yeah, that's true. And I get that as well, Rochelle, that we're often it's like, this is why I'm like, mainstream media propaganda, it does sensationalize everything. We hook into these big old stories, and we all have stories. And that's another aspect of, I feel, the time that we're living in. It's like we all have a story to tell, and we all deserve to be able to share it and to be heard and felt and met, and not to be denied, and not to be told like you're lying or blah blah blah. Just be heard. And everyone's frightened because we live in this criminal system, and we're all pointing fingers, and you're going to be attacked, and everybody's been through an inquisition on some level. And right now we're just going through the turning point, or like the turning of the tides of these very small in numbers elite ruling classes who felt like it was okay to dominate people and to steal and rape. And now we're suddenly going, no, that's not good, actually. It's not even like we want to do the same. We don't want vengeance. I don't even want to, like, I don't need to take people's lives or to take anything away from them. I just want everybody to have enough. And I would love to live in a world where everybody's having great sex. And not cheating on each other, not lying to one another, not avoiding one another, not, love. It's just love. Like, hi, we know what love is. And like, ultimately, here's my vibe. I'm like, if you love someone, you want to be with them. If you love someone, you want to chat to them. If you love someone, you make time for people. And if you don't, you don't. And that's just those things we learn. But yeah. And then also, because we're so heavily programmed to find a partner and live happily ever after, now I'm seriously questioning that as a concept of truth, a concepted reality. I'm like, what would happen if we were all just single and free? I don't know. What would that be like? Is there a hard rule around that? Just things to noodle on. That's all. I was married to the rapist. People have these extraordinary lives. And there's so many of us just sitting in our little pockets of the world, doing what we can just to like love each other back to wealth and health. And wealth, I just mean in spirit. Um, I have to say thank you guys for your donations, for your support. Some of you guys have just been extraordinarily helpful and useful, and you've just given me like so much faith in humanity, and you've reflected back, um, like, that it's working, that it's okay for me to be myself, that it's okay for me to share honestly. Seems like a distant memory, all of that kind of shameful ridicule and the fear of being insane. And increasingly, I just feel so whole and so sane and so in love, even when I'm just sitting here in my bedroom crying, which is a lot. I'm so thankful to be able to feel to these depths and to not be ashamed, to enjoy my body and to not be ashamed, and to like basically know in truth that when you're just who you are, and you step into that truth and you shine that, eventually like the people who get you will show up. And you guys are proof of that. And it's taken 6 years. It's taken longer than the quick fix 3D reality program wants us to believe, especially as it shortens our attention spans. It would really want to make us think that we can never break free from its claws, and yet I know that's the biggest lie of all, that we're already free. that the freedom piece is only going to continue to show up for us, and that we made it. We know this. In truth, it's just now we get to watch it all unfold and continue to step into our truth and our power. So I'm visioning a life of passion and abundance and travel, love, a sense of stability for a lot of us, because I feel that for some of us, we've never really had that feeling. And obviously, the stability isn't about a pension, it's about your having roots on this ground and being connected to your cosmic origin and essence, and being able to be the divine channel that you are without fear, so that we can really enjoy our time here and then actually shine and share and teach a little bit of that ability to enjoy to other just by being it. We don't need to say much at all. Yeah, and then I'm just seeing Daniel's comment about, yeah, like indulging in dehumanizing things. So we deny our sacred, we make our spiritual things weird, wacko, push it over to the side, and or make it just, oh, it's just a girly thing, or I don't know, whatever, right? Whatever concept we have of it. So we indulge in all this stuff that basically kind of destroys us, and then we demonize and or taboo the shit that can actually help us. I.e., in England, the plant medicines are all still illegal. We still demonize things like pornography rather than making it just what it is. And let's be honest, I'm sure there's people that actually have a hand in illegalizing it, and they probably fucking enjoy it themselves, I don't know. It just goes way back to, like, again, my early awakenings, when I remember having this little insight drop in, basically saying to me, do what they tell you not to do, or try drugs. And then the other flip was, don't do what they tell you to do. Go make money in the corporate world. I'm like, pretty sure that's not at all right. Um, yeah, because when you see through the economy at quite a young age, and you're like a decent, heartfelt human being, you just can't do both. That's the legit. And, like, I'm starting to see that more clearly, and it is kinda sad, but, like, once you go through enough fucking heartache, it gets easier to just move on and carry on with your life. But, like, people are just consumed. People are just consumed by fear, and they don't even realize it. Like, their whole outpouring is essentially to not have to face their fear. Just keep working, just stay distracted, just avoid love, avoid connection, avoid actually facing the shit, and just stay in your like low level superficial childhood patterns. Basically, it's bizarre, but to each their own. Like, seriously, no judge factor, just observations where I'm like, interesting. I'm looking forward to watching life unfold. I've got little mini plans for my little life here in Linton. I'm gonna probably get myself a dog, or at least try to foster a dog. I'm volunteering at the hospice, which is just a charity shop where I'm like, no, I think I got the sweater from eBay. But again, a lot of my like random sweaters, and I do my recycling of clothing, comes from the North Devon Hospice. I hope to do a live show from the hospice one day, just to share with you, like, this little quirky shop that I'm at a couple days a week. So I'm gonna go in today, and I'm making a few little changes in my daily routine and schedule, but I'm gonna be really like compassionate and like loving to myself as I make those changes. And I will share them with you once I get over the initial bit, if that makes sense. And then this weekend, Kati Finch is coming to Linton. So I want to do a live share with Kati so that you guys can meet her. Kati Finch is part of Team Love, by the way, and she collaborated. Well, she didn't collaborate. She really was responsible. She pioneered the Zenful Zero Waste course. So she's a hardcore compassionate chica. She talks about all this. She's also been teaching me a lot about the feminine cycle, and we together have been talking a lot about like the sex energy stuff. And as it happens, we're both traversing fairly similar things with regards to romantic relationships, manifestation, and shifting these long-standing control patterns from our beingness. So I hope to do a live share with Katie so that you guys can get to know her better. A couple of you have actually inquired about the Zenful Zero Waste course, so feel free to reach out to me. Well, if any of the courses interest you, Zenful Zero Waste, Spirituality Simplified, Ulta Vegan Love, and then I'm about to go into production for, well, I'm in it, but I've been slack on it. Not gonna lie, you guys. Um, I'm going into production for Unplug for Freedom, where if you want to come to the retreat in June 19th to 23rd, I'm hosting a retreat in the French Alps, flying into Geneva. It's an hour from Geneva in a place called Le Grand Bornand. And we'll do a day of paragliding and mostly just sit by the pool, have saunas, and do yoga. We'll do a couple hours of yoga, eat really delicious vegan food, and go paragliding for a day and maybe have like a massage or just do some nice stuff like on site, maybe go for some hikes and all that. But the point of it being is that if you purchase an 8-week course, i.e. the 144-pound Unplug for Freedom course, no, I have that reversed, sorry. If you come to the retreat, so those attendees, I've only got 2 bookings so far. So those attendees coming to the retreat all get a copy of um, Unplug for Freedom. So those are 8-week courses that are just more about practical action and empowering people to make certain little daily changes, which could have a great impact on their lives and the lives of and the environment ultimately, which is the pillars of All to Love: sustainability. That's the zero waste vegan piece, which talks about fashion and consumerism in general. So spirituality, which is simplifying the F out of all this spiritual mumbo jumbo because it's still a bunch of bullshit. Just like there's a bunch of bullshit in the economy and in politics, spirituality is no different. So-called spirituality, but let's be honest, true spirituality can't ever fit into that 3D system. It's just not, doesn't, it's like completely different vibrations, right? And then freedom. So the unplug is ultimately the spirituality and the unplugging is again the spirituality and the freedom piece. It's that for us to truly be free, we need to claim back our sovereignty, which isn't in the media, which isn't in the external reality. It's in our inherent connection to the source that we are, which is this idea of the one body of Christ. We are that. We are that. So give into it basically and love the totality of that which you are, because we are all that totality. And I know it's challenging because people have lost their way a little bit, and we all have as well, but we're finding our way back and we're helping each other do it. And it feels nice. It feels really good to be here. So thanks, guys. I've got my Wednesday, my sort of friend date with my good friend Robin. We go for coffee and smoothie, and then he comes along to my afternoon yoga session, and then we do lunch, and then he takes the bus back to Barnstable. So that's my day, and then I'm gonna be working in the shop. My little life in Linton is feeling quite nice, I've got to say. I'm happy to be alive. It's been a deep and pretty dark beginning to the year, but I feel like things are starting to turn around, and I'm very thankful for you guys. And thanks for your comments. Thanks for your comments, your all of the stuff, the subscribing and the sharing and all of it. And just mostly just for being here. So thanks, you guys. You're always welcome to reach out for sessions. Sessions are always intuitive, which means I'm just listening to my intuition, sharing insights and little nudgings that come through. And 99% of the time, they're useful to people that I work with. So, and there are packages, which means that if you buy a package, we can work together for 3, 6 months, or even a whole year. So I love you guys. I hope you have a beautiful day, and I look forward to giving you some big hugs in the real world. But for now, I'll just give you my virtual hug. Virtual hug. You guys have a jolly good day. Love you loads. I'll speak to you real soon. Take care. Peace out.